is a team football. Why are you giving preference to certain players?
Mm.
Why? I don't get it, you know. So he doesn't wear that kind of influence. But I still feel that he sort of knows how to get results. Maybe not the finale, but some form of results. Ten Hag is just winging it.
Mm.
He's not getting any results. He's not getting any results. He plays against the big team, he loses woefully. He plays against the small teams. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, all right, so if he plays against Chelsea or Liverpool, all right, so Liverpool are sort of in top form. All right, so granted. But if you're playing against players that not really up to the caliber of Manchester United or in that same, you know,
Yeah.
level category, you should be pulling punches. And he's not. He's just letting everything slide. Oh, even after all right, so after the match, after the last match against Tottenham, where he lost, he still came on there and said, "Oh, we're together. We're doing this. We're doing." No, you should be telling the players this isn't happening.
Mm.
This must not
Mm.
happen again. He's not. He's there supporting the players. What are you supporting the players for? Are you supporting them to make them better, or are you supporting them because they're
Mm.
your mates? They're not your mates. They are not your mates. If the management decides
No.
to if the management decides to get rid of you, the next manager is their mate. You
Yeah.
know,
I
so
mean, the thing is, I would think that unless the team now go on a winning spree,
yeah,
which they couldn't really sack the manager if he wins the next 10 games, for example. That I think that's unlikely because from what I've seen of Man United, and I saw the game against Tottenham, they're not firing on all cylinders at all. They just are not. And I think I agree. The team selections don't always seem correct as far as any armchair manager can say. Um, but yeah, it's not really working. And the expression I think is that the manager may have lost the dressing room. And for him to say, "Well, we're all together," that may or may not be true. But it does look sometimes in a team that they may not. They've lost interest. They're not motivated. They're not, as they say, not doing the hard yards. And that often is a sign that they're not motivated by a manager, or worse, they're almost deliberately not pushing themselves about a bit. So, my own opinion is that it's almost inevitable he will go in the next few weeks, um, unless, as I say, there's this unlikely great run of results. But then it does bring the question about who they might go for. And I was listening to some of what Graham Potter, who was on Monday Night Football on Sky this week for the Bournemouth Southampton game, and I wasn't able to listen to all of it afterwards. So I believe he made reference to being approached by Man United. But I don't know whether he discounted that or what. But if in the absence of anything he may have said to the contrary, I don't think he will be a bad fit there. Some fans would say, well, when he was at Brighton, he did pretty well. He got quite a good team together, but they kind of faffed about a bit with a lot of passing around the back, and they weren't really scoring enough goals up front. So some fans would say, we're not really keen on Potter. But for my part, I think he's a very good, very astute person and a very astute manager. If you look at his track record, I mean, he achieved great things in Sweden. He went there. He played in this country as he said, an average footballer for a lot of teams, quite a few teams across the divisions, more than I was aware. But I don't think he stood out or shone, and he said that himself. But at some point, he decided to go to Sweden, which, when you think about it, it's something similar to Roy Hodgson. Guys who were footballers here. Hodgson became a teacher, but then he too went and managed clubs in different countries, and Potter did, and he won some trophies with the club in Sweden, which is phenomenal because I don't know whether they both had studied Swedish at school, but But then he too went and managed clubs in different countries, and Potter did, and he won some trophies with the club in Sweden, which is phenomenal because I don't know whether they both had studied Swedish at school, but it's not the sort of language that is common. It's usually French, Spanish, German. But they obviously went because I think Hodgson also went to Sweden, and they obviously learn the language, which you do. I mean, footballers here, they come from other countries and they learn the language. If you're there in the country, it's a hell of a lot easier to learn than if you're not there. So I got a lot of admiration for Graham Potter. I mean, I think the other thing is, I think he said he applied for one job. It may have been Leicester, but I may be wrong on that. But then he withdrew himself after a while because he didn't think it was a good fit for him. But the other thing is, of course, by all accounts, and we only get told what we hear,
Yeah.
but his contract with Chelsea was for 5 years, £12 million a year. So it's a £60 million contract to manage Chelsea, which is basically £1 million a month, £250,000 a week. And they sacked him after what was it, 6 months, 7 months, something like that. And since then, which was a season and a half ago, quite a long time, are still putting into his bank account £250,000, less tax presumably, every week. And I don't know the terms of what they agreed, and of course, this is what you read, and I'm assuming it's fairly accurate from football writers. But I think it will only be until he gets another job, which he can presumably choose as and when. But there may have been an arbitrary deadline to say you've got to find a job within 2 years because that's when we're going to stop paying you.
Yeah.
But even so, it's nice work if you can get it. Get a contract like that. And Chelsea were throwing out with players these massive contracts. I think perhaps, I mean, obviously very rich and very well intentioned owners, and far be it from me to be critical of them. But it did seem really generous to give players they used to give 8-year contracts to and so on. That was just their way. And as with Potter, it was an expensive mistake in a way for them. But he's a good chap and a good bloke, a good football man. And if he went to Man United, maybe some fans wouldn't like it there. I don't get the impression you would. You can tell me otherwise if that's what you think. But I think he would bring back some of the magic that swirls around the name Manchester United, and
Yeah.
it's not been there in recent times. So, would you take Potter?
I think having an Englishman manage Manchester United will be a great asset too, because
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know the fans will love it, um, and and um, and he's going to be able to speak out as well, because sometimes being able to express yourself, because Alex Ferguson, you dare not cross him, you don't matter who
Yeah.
you are, referee or pundit, whatever, they'll give it to you straight away,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so being able to have somebody that is vocal, it does help as well as a
Yeah.
manager, being able to for somebody to say something in a way that you know the home club, the home fans would understand and would back him,
Mm.
or being able to, yeah. So I think is when you have a foreign player, they probably have expressions in their mother tongue that probably sounds a bit different in English.
Mm.
And so, it leaves people wondering, what's he trying to say? What is his point,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the point is then lost in translation then. But if you have an English manager that sort of, can connect with the FA here at home, connect with the fans,
Mm.
I think it would make a great deal of difference to, um, and it would help. It would help the players as well, to say, well, hang on a minute, I'm not going to mess with him because he's going to
Yeah.
tell,
Yeah.
you know. But if somebody has to translate, then obviously it's not going to carry that much weight as it should. That's one of the upsides that I see to it. Um, right. So just talking about so Rodri for Manchester City is picked
Yeah.
up injury, so he's going to be out till at least next year. How do you think City's managing with it? Do you think they're doing? Because it was a huge blow to them, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Rodri, he was the guy, wasn't he, a few weeks ago, was talking about going on strike as a footballer's. It was ironic that it was him. I mean, he is he's a what would I say? He's a masterful midfield player. He's the classic midfield general.
Yeah.
Um, he's not the captain, I don't think. Is he the captain of Man City? I don't think he is or
No, I don't think
was.
it is, no.
But he's got this